Welcome back. You might have heard this week analysts at LightShed questioned this week whether Apple should replace Tim Cook and find a more, quote, product-focused CEO, not one centered on logistics. And Tesla CEO Elon Musk seeks to disrupt the two-party system, forming that America Party, sparking a call from Wedbush for Tesla's board to step in. Let's bring in Jeffrey Sonnenfeld this morning, Yale School of Management Senior Associate Dean for Leadership Studies, also a CNBC contributor. Got two good ones for you this morning, Jeffrey. Let's start with Apple. I'm guessing you think there still is room for the world's most famous logistician to help Apple manage its supply chain.
It is, Carl. I have to say, I'm in rapid agreement with where you and Jim and David were earlier this morning. I hate to disappoint you and not bring controversy, but Tim Cook has performed extremely well and is, as I think you coined the term, saying that it was a dull market, dull headlines, that people are trying to spark things over the summer. But to shed light on LightShed, what in the world they're talking about. I mean, they've obviously, Rich Greenfield we all admire, and this guy Walter Piecyk, I'm not quite sure what his problems are. If you take a look at what Tim Cook has done to take this stock that was a $350 billion stock when he took over, he took it up to almost $4 trillion, $3.9 trillion, or by 2018, he'd already taken it up to first company to be $1 trillion. And in 2 years, he doubled it. In 3 years, he tripled it. I mean, this is pretty remarkable. And what are the complaints? That he knows operations? Well, so does Mary Barra, and so does, of course, at GM, or Andy Jassy at Amazon. They're great operations. For that matter, Indra Nooyi was a great operations person at PepsiCo. I surely wouldn't hold that against them in terms of innovation. AirPods and the Apple Watch. I mean, a lot's come out under him.
But are you surprised, even on the margin, how much they appear to be behind the eight ball on AI?
Well, they're not doing any worse than many others that are in tech space, as they're looking to see what unfolds. I think certainly that Mark Zuckerberg doesn't have a lot to brag about there in terms of Meta. I mean, Meta's wasted billions that went nowhere on this front, and you compare how Meta's done after Anthropic of Claude or OpenAI's ChatGPT, or they're even performing worse than Google's Claude, Google's Gemini, or some of the others out there. That Perplexity does better even than Zuckerberg. So I think what Tim Cook does, he's wanting to see what unfolds. Apple Intelligence is a disappointment, but so it looks like they've got a plan afoot to maybe partner with somebody that's going to make this work. So I think that their caution, could make sense. They'll go the right path. He has a great track record. It certainly seems.
But, Jeffrey, I mean, it's David. Past performance is not indicative of future performance. I mean, there is a time for change in leadership. And I'm saying that it's one that needs to happen here. But you followed, this more closely than any. I mean, you don't know what you don't know as the world changes sometimes. People get older. They may not be taking in as much information, or their expertise may be in an area that is no longer as specific to the needs of their business. And AI certainly would seem to be that kind of a change. You seem confident that Tim Cook is capable of guiding the company into this world, and I'm curious as to why, or whether there is somebody else out there who might be in a better position to do that.
There's no correspondence between age and invention. You take a look at the Nobel Prize winners in the sciences; they tend to get the awards in their 70s or 80s.
Yeah, they do for stuff they did in their 30s, Jeffrey. Come on, what are you talking about? Really?
Not
Mozart,
as 20,
Gershwin,
not as 20-year-olds.
Come on.
Well, but Mozart had been dead 40 years by the time he was our age, David.
My point is that they did all their great work in their 20s. You're saying what? Really?
There are a couple of musicians
your brain is as strong now as it was when you were 30 years old?
Nutrition was different back then. You have better nutrition now.
I knew you when you were all those years ago. You're all right. Maybe you're as good, Jeffrey.
John Sebastian hasn't produced in a while. Mick Jagger's still out there, but he's singing old songs. However, when you take a look at science and engineering, these are great producers that are happening at a later stage in life. there's no evidence when he was not a kid when he came out with the watch, with the Apple Watch and the AirPods. I mean, these are and tremendous developments in the iPhone and Mac and iPad that were great advancements. I give the guy a couple of months. If we're like this situation a year from now, we could ask that question. And there is some bench strength there to turn to. So I wouldn't panic over this just yet.
I mean, you're seeing more attention for Elon Musk right now, I think, than ever, and partly because he ventured into this new territory of politics. And just when he says he's going to rededicate himself to Tesla, he says, oh, but also I'm going to launch a third party. If you could pick any CEO to launch a third party and be a success at it, would it be Elon Musk or would it be somebody else?
It would be Jamie Dimon or Bob Iger right away. Howard Schultz might want to do it, but I would go for Jamie Dimon. Would be more likely to win this. If you look at the political overlay, and I should have mentioned, by the way, and Tim Cook, he's done a magnificent job because of the politics of almost every iPhone that's produced that comes into this country is produced in India, not China. He's had to deal with politics. And in terms of dealing with politics, Musk has been quite ham-handed about it. We've seen this Rasputin syndrome happen a lot over history, where somebody thinks that they can outmaneuver their own client as the consigliere, as the advisor, like Rasputin was to Tsar Nicholas. Is people blow up and they get into this, and Musk does not have the diplomatic skills. He's a brilliant engineer, brilliant creator, brilliant inventor, but he's not very good at turnaround, and he's been a disaster with the poor diplomacy in government. So he's the exact he should focus on his own business. You look at Tesla; it's the greatest, meme stock of all times. Although he's got 150% PE. You compare that to Nvidia at 30%, for God's sakes, or Apple and IBM at 28%, or the S&P at 20%. Where in the world do we come up with this kind of a leveraging of the PE? It's way overinflated stock at Tesla, and problems on so many fronts. What's going on the Boring Company other than truth in advertising? It lives up to its name. Where those 27 tunnels connecting all these cities, and you got a lot of nerve to celebrate Neuralink. I mean, he's got awful lot of FDA exposure problems with the government there, and losing the government's clean air subsidies of $7,500 a car is certainly going to hurt Tesla. We're seeing sales crash in Europe. He's got a lot to focus on before he tries to figure out how to deal with government. And look at the backlash the white nationalism that he has from South Africa to the ADF in Germany. He's not going to be pulling a lot from the Democratic Party. He's going to be certainly going to, like Ross Perot, he'll be pulling heavily from the Republican Party. Yeah.
There have been a lot of analogs this week talking about Perot's legacy and whether or not Musk's wealth can do more than Perot was able to accomplish. But stock is holding 300 this morning, Jeff. That was good. We'll talk more about it in the weeks to come. Jeff Sonnenfeld, thanks.
Anytime. Thanks a lot.